just at any point, all you guys who know me know I talk fast at times. So if you need me to rewind, pause, repeat, let me know. So my journey is very similar actually to Coach Sutton. You know, every day when I wake up and put my feet on the floor, I look at myself and I'm back doing it. But when I was a college coach, I always looked at myself as a high school coach, a teacher, a mentor first before I ever even thought about being a college coach. And Coach Sutton is his tree, as you guys know if you've done this show, it's incredible. It goes long and far and reaching, and it's not just because of his knowledge, but it's because of who he is as a person. I've never seen him walk past somebody and not stop and talk if somebody wanted to talk to him. And I'll get to some of those things in the Zoom. So first for me, I think I'm calling this the Living Trophy Zoom musings, just my musings after being in the business for so long. And the first thing I like to talk about in this business, especially for the younger guys who are trying to move forward, whether it's as a coach, an associate AD or athletic director, whatever it is you're doing and you're aiming for. But my first point for me, and I was on someone else's Instagram, we had a discussion a week ago. And one of the most important things I think that for me, it's helped me in my journey so far is the number one point I want to talk about is being a curious learner and curious capital. I really believe in order to be good, to be successful, to be sharp, is to be a curious learner. And what do I mean by that? As far as a coach, obviously you want to watch as many games and practices, videos, clinics, whatever you can get your hands on to be a part of within your sport. But what I've become as a curious learner over time, from when I first started coaching to now, is that I try to find as many coaches to watch outside of basketball. Some of the best coaches you'll find to teach you how to coach, doesn't matter what we are coaching, but to teach you how to coach, is to step outside of basketball, get our mind off the court of X's and O's with 5 people on offense and 5 people on defense, and watch some master coaches do their craft and see what makes them the master coach that they are. And one of the things I do when I watch, and I challenge you to do, is first and foremost, I ask why they do the things they do more than how they do things, the way they do things, right? It's easy to watch a video, go to a clinic and get the how to do it. But the question is why did he do things? And I say that because it helps you get a deeper understanding about what you see. And it leads to the second thing. I say, ask great questions. You know, don't just ask a question. We grew up in school where we tell kids, ask a question. There's no dumb question, which is true. But in order to really make people think, come up with some great questions. How many great questions do you have right now that you can go to in any room you walk into, whether it be a coaching environment, in a business? Think of some great questions and have those written down or have those in your brain so that when you're trying to figure out the why someone's doing something, that you ask great questions, because great questions invariably, they spark more questions. And there's guys on this Zoom I can see that we either text or we talk by phone, and we ask each other questions, questions to challenge each other, but also legitimate questions as we're asking why, to get a deeper understanding. The other thing I would say, and Kevin's famous for this, is to be well-read. Get your hands, read anything that you can get your hands on that's going to feed your mind. I tried to read still, and people who've talked to me before in the past, even when I was a college coach, I try to read. I'm a voracious reader, so I read about 2 books a week. And people say, well, where do you find time to read? And I was fortunate to work for Coach Raveling at Nike. And I remember just about every morning, he knew I was an early arriver at work. He arrived early. Every Monday morning, 6 a.m., if I came on my desk to be 5 new books for me to read. The vast majority had nothing to do with basketball. If you want to feed your mind, you can always find 20 minutes, 30 minutes in a day. Shut your door, pick up a book, because most of us are giving and we're taking things out of our brain, out of our body energy. But we need to feed ourselves during the midst of our busyness. And I say, be well read, and also watch documentaries. Watch documentaries about people, things, and events that have nothing to do with sport, and start to see what the parallels are. Because as we stand and we teach and we coach, you can always pull something from a different source. For instance, I had the entire team here to my house, and we watched Everest. You know, Everest is an old movie, and kids these days, you know, they don't know about the movie Everest. But we took that movie and watched the themes of what did it mean to be tethered to a rope and climb a mountain as a teammate? What happens when someone untethers themselves from the rope as a teammate? And we discussed those things. So try to watch documentaries and things that you can equate the information you get and the knowledge you get from those documentaries into things you're trying to impart into your players or to your employees. The second thing I really want to discuss is master your craft, whatever that may be. And this is what I say: master your craft regardless whether anyone outside of the sphere that you work in ever sees it. You know, because it's not about what people see me do to highlight me. Our job is to develop the student athletes and the people who work for you under your purview. In order to do that, you have to master your craft. And what it shows is that you care more about those people than you do yourself if you master your craft. For example, Kevin Sutton's on this is his show. Luther Riley's on this show. I'll never forget when we used to work the Nike Hoop Jamboree. At night, when other coaches may be going out and having fun, we would meet in one of the hotel rooms and challenge each other. We would say 3 seconds left on the clock, far end baseline inbounds play. The other teams run the 1-2-2 press. What do you do to break it? We would do things like that all the time, not to say who's the smartest guy in the room, but to say, oh man, that's a good idea. I never thought about that. To share our knowledge. And what that does is help you master your craft. One of the things I hate hearing, and you coaches, some people may beg to differ with me, is that when people just label a guy as a defensive coach. A great defensive coach, I would argue, is a very good offensive coach. Because to understand what defense is going to work, you have to have a concept of what offenses are going to go against that defense. And the same thing, if you want to be a great offensive coach, go watch everything you can. Go find the best defensive coaches in the world and watch what they do. And then you design your offenses based upon, well, what would the best do? How would the best guard this? You know, are they going to ice that ball screen? Are they going to down it? Are they going to switch it? Should we set it in the slot? Should we set it in the wing? So I would say challenge yourself that way in terms of master your craft. Another part of it, I was fortunate because I went to graduate school for coaching studies. And one of the things they did from the first class I took was to challenge us to develop your own personal coaching and mentoring philosophy. The vast majority of us work for other people or have worked for other people. And a lot of us have worked for multiple coaches. And as you know, if you've been in multiple places, a lot of coaches don't share the same exact philosophy. They don't share the same exact philosophy of X's and O's and how to mentor kids. And so I would say every day you wake up and when I watch other sports, I try to figure out by watching the way they play, what's that coach's philosophy? What's his philosophy on substitution? What's his philosophy on defense? You can tell in basketball for sure, I think within the first 3 or 4 minutes, if you watch someone practice, you'll understand what their philosophy is. All of us on the call either want to be, have been, or are head coaches. And the worst thing you can do as a head coach is to walk out there and not have your own philosophy about how you want to coach, how you want to play, because one of the best ways to teach is to be passionate and have a control, a master control of what you're trying to teach the people who are going to be participating for you. And if you're out there teaching someone else's game, someone else's philosophy, kids are smart. They can see right through that. Also, as you develop your philosophy, Kyle Keller at Stephen F. Austin said something unbelievable one day about 6-7 years ago. We're on the road recruiting. We start talking X's and O's. And we're talking about this one team. A coach is asking them, man, because you know, Stephen F. Austin, they get to deny everything almost all the way to half court. And this coach is saying, man, how do you do that? Teach me that stuff. And then Kyle says to him, goes, well, I watched you guys play. On offense, you're very deliberate. You're very slow in the way you play. I don't think those two things match. And I sat there, I thought about it and said, you know, it's right. If you're aggressive, all gas, no brakes on defense, it's a good way to play that on offense as well, within control. But so challenge yourself when you're mastering your craft and you develop your philosophy is, am I doing things that match? Does it make sense on one end to the other? I think that's a good way to go. Third, for me, is managing the profession. All of us are on this call, some young, some old, that we have to not let the profession manage you. And it's easy to do that. With my first point, if you don't figure out what your priorities are as early as possible. One of the things we need to learn to do, and men aren't great at it. I'm glad we have a female coach on with us. I hope there's more than one. Is men don't do a great job of being honest with themselves about what drives them. When you figure out what it truly is that drives you to coach, whether it's achievement, whether it's self-fulfillment, whether it's for money, you know, not my thing, but if it's your thing that you're doing this for money, make sure you know that's your priority. I don't think that's the best way to go into business, but early on, as early as you can, figure out your priorities. The next thing is when you're looking for jobs and you're saying, I want to work for this coach. Coach Sutton, all you coaches on the phone know what happens. How many of you guys got calls yesterday when Penn State opened up about who's going to get the job? Who's going to get the job? Well, if this person gets the job, can you help me get the job? And I always ask people, well, why do you want that job? Why do you want to work for that guy? And so in order to figure out why you want to work for someone or with someone, you have to figure out what your negotiables, your non-negotiables are when you're taking or looking for a job. If you do not, you'll find yourself in positions where you're unhappy and we're pointing the finger at the people we work with or work for rather than evaluating how we chose that job. So I think that's really important to set your priorities, know why you want to take a certain job or work for a certain individual. Is it because it's moving you forward? Because you think that's going to advance your career as fast as possible? Or you're doing that because you're going to gain the most amount of knowledge, the most experience being on the court, working with people so that when you do get your opportunity, you're ready to go. The third I should have put first is make sure that you are super tight and communicate often with your family and significant others. You got to bring them along on the ride. If we don't bring them along on the ride, it's a lonely journey. They're going to be bad times. They're going to be great times. And if you have significant people in your life, you need to bring them on the ride with you. They're on the ride with you. You're not driving the car. They're not all in the back seat. They're riding along beside you in this journey. And they're going to support you more than anyone else. And what I also say with that is when you have significant others and family and they're on the ride, when you're choosing a job, be leery of the people who aren't family first. Not just in word, but in action. There are a lot of people say they're all about family, all about family. All you have to do is sit back and watch. And the reason I say that is I personally believe that people who aren't strong and have great desire to be with their family and others who are with them to be with their family, I would say watch them with the players. That means they don't care as much the players as much as possible. Because the players, we always say, family, go 1, 2, 3, family, 1, 2, 3, family. Well, when you watch individuals and see really what they think about and these days, we're so busy and we get not as much time as we would like with our families, that make sure you're choosing situations to be in where they feel like they're on that ride with you. To me, there's no fun in winning championships and you're standing there alone and you go into the hotel and you're there alone. So if you have significant others, whether it's by phone call or other, bring them on the ride, talk to them, because they will tell you stuff about yourself that you may not know. Another point with managing the game, take time, and this is what I talked about opening with Kevin Sutton, and I believe I do this, but take time and spend time with people who have absolutely zero control, zero power to help you move your career forward. Instead, operate with the mindset is, how can I help you mindset? Take every opportunity to let someone know you see them and they're valued. And I say it all the time, make people feel 2 inches taller. And when you take the time to help other people grow, you're actually growing yourself. And there's no one here who's bigger than the game, whether it's basketball, football, soccer, chess, dominoes. Take time, because those people, they seek you out for a reason. For some reason or another, you've done something that's caught that person's attention, and then why they admire you. And none of us are too big to stop and have a conversation or shoot someone a text or an email if they have a question. You know, there are a lot of humble people on this call that I know I can call or text and ask a question, I'm gonna get the answer back. May not be right away, the same with me, may not be right away, but take that time. It's gonna benefit you in the long run and them as well. Number 4, I say be well-rounded. And it's mainly basketball coaches on the Zoom here, but basketball is what you do, it's not who you are. And I'm gonna say that again. I wrote a paper in graduate school called Career Transition Among Elite Athletes, and that was over 20 years ago, so I'm dating myself. And one of the studies, a lot of the studies I saw back then, is most players and coaches have a difficult time with retirement because what they've done, they look at the sport or the job that they have as a CEO, and being that is a measurement of who they are. That's simply what you do. And one of the ways to be well-rounded is, I would say, get yourself involved with as many charitable organizations or a really good one, and or volunteer. Because, you know, for a long time, you know, I'm a Rapheal graduate, and I think they're used to people graduating and all of a sudden you got $1 million. You know, I didn't have that for the most part when I'm started coaching. But what you do, when you give your time and your talent and a level of care, oftentimes that's as valuable and even more valuable than sending in a financial donation somewhere. When you take your time to step back and offer people your time, your talent, and a certain level of care that you care about other people, I think it goes a long way. Number 5 is something I challenge myself every day, and I don't win every day in this category. But I would say, try and live your life with a do-better mindset. I can't tell you how many times I leave practice and I go home and I have to give myself a do-better talk. Maybe because it's an interaction with a player or assistant coach, or that I missed something that I really wanted to teach that day, and go back tomorrow and be better. A great way to have a live with a do-better mindset is absolutely, you gotta have an inner circle of truth tellers and accountability partners. We all want cheerleaders, but what we all need is truth tellers. People who will tell you the truth about yourself, about how you coach, how you teach. People to lift you up, they're gonna tell you the truth. I'm not sure if Kyle Getter is on or not from Virginia, but I've known Kyle since he was an ops position at Dayton with Oliver Purnell. And to this day, he's one of the people who I consider a truth teller, an accountability partner. Every Sunday, just about, I get a text from him about what their pastor preached about. And we try to share things like that with each other. So I would say, in this business, find yourself a group of people who are going to be your truth tellers, whether it's your family, friends, and other colleagues. Lastly, my last category before we talk is really as a coach, do your best to be a servant leader. You know, let them see the full measure of your devotion. I believe that's a Abraham Lincoln quote, the Gettysburg Address. Let the people that you work with, let the people you encounter see the full level of your devotion. You don't need to hide that you like to help people. You don't need to go out there and put a big neon light on saying I'm helping people. But at the same time, let the people you work with see the full measure of your devotion. And we call it with our guys, I call it empty your bucket. When they see you empty your bucket for them, they're going to empty their buckets for you every day of the week. And the way they do that is you show them that you're going to get out there and have some sweat equity. Those are a few musings of an old dog in the business. I don't claim to know it all, but I know a few things. So if there are any questions, the floor is open.
Absolutely. First question, Jay Wick, manager of Rhode Island.
Coach Hill, thank you for dropping some knowledge tonight. Really love listening to you. My biggest question is, what is one hidden misconception about the business?
I would say they're a bunch, right? But I would say that it's all glory. You guys are in the business. People on TV see us on game day. You know, they see us come out there with our suits and ties and everybody's screaming and yelling, but they don't see the work you put in behind the scenes. And I talked about this before, like one of the biggest misconceptions you can take individually is that, and Kevin and I have talked about this, it's not if, it's when. At some point, you're going to be on a staff that's going to get let go somewhere. And the biggest misconception you can do internally is to take that personal as a slight against yourself and start to question yourself. Are you good enough? Sometimes getting let go and being unsuccessful helps you become a better coach. Has anyone watched Anthony Grant last year? You know,
I did firsthand, Coach.
Firsthand.
Yes, sir.
He wasn't successful at Alabama by other people's standards, right?
Correct.
And he came back new and improved because he didn't go into a shell like a turtle. He stood up like a man, spent some time with Billy Donovan, and came back and, by all accounts, National Coach of the Year last year.
Absolutely.
I would say misconception is you get fired, you fail. No, you get fired, there's opportunity to get better.
Next question, Caitlin Benedict.
Hey, Coach, thank you for your time. My question is like a lot of times, for me at least, I think that a great player, a great team is not only made up of basketball skill, but it's made up of all those intangible qualities. What to you are the most important non-negotiable basketball skills, and how do you help your players develop these things?
Well, the things I think are non-negotiable is three things I think players bring to practice every day. They have to bring it: their energy, their enthusiasm, and encouragement, to be able to encourage themselves because things aren't going to go right, and to be able to encourage others. Those are things that coaches aren't responsible for. You know, I think players bring those are intangibles. For me personally, our players have to have an abundance of grit. You know, grit allows you to persevere through tough times, but grit is also, people think grit and perseverance is things that happen to me, I got to fight through that because something's wrong. No, it allows you to have an aggressive mindset. It has you to go out there and attack it. So to me, that's a non-negotiable, is grit. And the longer I've done this is, again, that curious learner. If you aren't curious about learning, I think it's very hard to get better as a player and better as a coach. So I think curiosity is something that's really underrated, but something that I find invaluable.
Thank you.
Great question. Next question, Cliff Warren.
Chill, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Cliff.
Cliff Warren, Georgia State University, Atlanta, Georgia. Chill, you've been a high school coach, prep school coach at a couple different places, and you've been successful. You've been a college coach, you've been very successful. And you mentioned tonight about one of your bullet points was talking about family, observe other people and their family. This is kind of a long question, but maybe you can intertwine all this. Can you tell me the differences and or similarities between recruiting in college, recruiting at the prep school, high school level, And how did you incorporate your family in all that also?
Yeah, that's a great question, Cliff. It ties in quite a few things. The things that I look for in players as a prep school coach are very similar to as a college coach in terms of the metrics. You know, I like all my guys to be somewhere between that 6'4", 6'7" pocket with 6'10", 6'11" wingspan, so that we cover as much ground as possible defensively. You know, I don't get out and pressure in the lanes like I used to with the rule changes, but I've found that if guys are in great floor position and have length, you get just as many deflections defensively with that length. And someone once said, it's not how high you can jump, it's how high you can reach when you jump. And so those are some of the metrics I look for. Obviously, that toughness. You're from the DMV. We have several DMV people here on the phone, and we grow up with guys who just have a tough edge about them. That's what I'm looking for as well. But high school, when I look at them in prep school, I look at them, are they going to let me coach them? Is their family going to let me coach them? One of the beautiful things about prep school is that the vast majority of the guys I have, their parents can't get to them easily, and their guardians can't get to them easily. So in a lot of ways, they have no choice but to let me coach them. But I think as a college coach, same thing. You know, I've been fortunate enough to recruit and coach some really talented players, but during the tail end of my college career, that was the number one question I would ask the parents or whoever was, quote unquote, the person that kid was going to lean on. Once I figured out that they were going to commit to us or they wanted to commit to us, I would say, pause. Are you going to let us coach them? And invariably, they always ask, what does that mean, coach? I said, well, whether they're 15 minutes away from home or 15,000 miles away from home, they're going to get homesick. You're not going to be at practice every day. And they're going to call and they're going to complain about the coach to some degree about something. And when they do that, are you going to say, have you talked to coach yet? And if you're not going to be that person, that the first 2 or 3 times they come to you and they ask you, have they talked to coach? I don't think we should coach your kid. Because if you're not that person, you're the locker room lawyer telling them the things that coach doesn't do. So one of my non-negotiables, Cliff, is when kids come here, and I tell the parents, when you come see them play, that's game day. I have them the other 6 days of the week. And until you come to practice the other 6 days of the week, I got to take what you say with a grain of salt. And the other part of that is I always tell them, I'm never going to talk to you about another player's player time, because if I'll talk to you about another kid on my team's playing time, I'll go to their parent and talk to them about your kid. And so when we talk, it's about your son only. And so the way I incorporate my family into it is that before they come, I make sure they get to know my family in the recruiting process. So if I'm FaceTime with the kid, Coach Sutton knows there's a lot of times my daughter just pop into the background, and I don't tell her to shoot, you know, because people are looking at you, how you treat your family. If I'm telling a person that I'm going to be there for your kid, I'm going to treat him just like mine, and then my kid comes to the screen, I say, get out of here. That's not what it's about. So I try to do that. We do a good job of, I think, especially when they arrive here, that my wife jumps out. She gets every kid's birth date, gets the mom's or whoever's the main person they talk to, their telephone numbers, and we coordinate like crazy. She coordinates like crazy. I just show up for whatever, when it's someone's birthday, she tells me what we're doing. And we make sure that everyone, that their birthday is special. You know, it sounds corny, but that's the day they were born. That's the day that God made them to come and be here, and they wouldn't be here. So we try to really blow up birthdays, whether it's a student athlete or someone on the staff, and make them feel extra valued on that day, because it is their day. They might share it with someone else in the world, but when they're with us and they're in their purview, that's their day, and we're gonna make a big deal of it. I hope that kind of answers the question.
Thank you.
Before we go to the next question, where is my niece? Wasn't she supposed to be on the Zoom today?
Yeah, I'm in my office. She's at home, and she has a lot of French homework tonight.
Oh,
so
okay.
And that's something I can't help her with.
All right. I forgive you this time. Next
Thank
question,
you.
Trey Brumell.
Coach, thank you for allowing me to be on today. Coach, one question I have for you is, do you have any habits or actions that you practice every day that you look to that sort of sets your mind to approach the day in a better place?
Absolutely. I think you have to have habits. If you study some of the smartest people in the world, the most successful people in the world, is that they have undeniable habits. That if someone saw them at 6 p.m., they knew what they were doing at that time, if they were available. For me, the first habit is my grandmother taught me a long time ago. Every day when you put your feet on the floor, you tell the devil, "Watch out, because I'm out here today." That's the first habit. That I put God first, and the devil knows that he has an adversary who's actively looking for him. He don't have to look for us. That's my number one habit. The second habit I have, it comes when it coaching, is that before I start any practice, I make sure I try to touch, whether it's a bump fist or communication with every kid in the gym. Because I don't think players have bad practice. I think coaches do. Coaches have bad practice when you don't know what's going on with your team. You know, someone may come into practice and you think they're dogging it, but you don't know that their grandmother just died if you didn't talk to them about it. Because not every kid's going to come in and open up with you. So that's a big habit of mine that I find out, get a little touch with everyone before we start. Another habit I have throughout the day, I mentioned it before, is at some point I'm going to shut my office door, or I'll go sit in my car. You know, people come by wondering what I'm doing. I'll go and read. Got to feed my mind and take my mind elsewhere sometimes, because this basketball thing can be all consuming. And people who know me know I don't sleep much. And so I got the mad scientist thing going. Like when I'm up, I got a whiteboard, I'm going. And sometimes I need to, at some point every day, take at least 20 minutes and get away from it mentally. That's a habit I have. And then I have a habit every day. I text one person who means something to me and let them know they're on my mind.
Hey, Coach Chill, can you also tell them about the habit you have at lunchtime, and what show you got to watch?
Kevin knows this firsthand. If it's lunchtime, Sanford and Son is on in my office or wherever I'm at. It's mandatory. It's compulsory. I have to have Sanford and Son. Thanks for telling them that secret, bro.
Next question. Kimbrough.
Coach Chill, how you doing? Jermaine Kimbrough, Loyola, Chicago, man. How you doing?
Yes, sir. Good to see you.
Good, man. Earlier you mentioned, Coach Raveling, and we all know, me, I'm a historian, man. I love the guys that come before us and pave their way for us to be sitting here on a Zoom call and coaching. And you talked about you work with them, and if you don't mind, please share some wisdom, something that you took away from him, working with him on a day-to-day basis that you feel like you're going to carry with you in life, whether you coaching, something that you learned from him that you feel like, hey, this is something that's going to be with me as part of who I am, my fiber. This is something I'm going to take with me. And also, if you can share one of the best books that he gave you that you felt like it was life-changing, that you felt like you grew from, if you could, that'd be great for me.
Well, there's so many things I could say about Coach Raveling and still not say enough.
Right.
One of the primary things is his undeniable, you see it if you spend any time around him, his true, genuine humility. Just the Martin Luther King thing with him. He could walk around and beat his chest about that. I'm the guy who found the I Have a Dream speech, I'd known Coach Rab before I worked for him for the longest time and never knew that story. I never knew that he was such a strong student, not just such a great player when he played at Villanova back in the days. And those are things I went and research like you, right? But I would say his level of reliability and consistency in caring about the people who work with him. And I love how you use the word with. I never felt like I worked for Coach Raveling. He always made you feel like you worked with him. The other piece of it is that he challenged you to grow personally and professionally and intellectually like no other person outside of being in college that I've ever been around. He is a big time believer in learning. I mean, if you follow him on Twitter, he's 83 years old and he still talks about the things that he's learning. The reading thing, he just reinforced something that became a habit for me. And I'll tell you two quick stories. I really wasn't I think I would say I'm pretty intelligent, you know, I went to Lafayette and all that stuff, but I didn't love reading until I was forced to read a lot, right? In high school, I think we get away with, if you have some natural intelligence, it doesn't take much effort to do well, as long as you do everything you're supposed to do. My freshman year of college, I had a political science class at Lafayette and I had a professor named John McCartney. He was a brother from the Caribbean. And he stood up in front of us and he was going through the syllabus. And then he's standing in front of his desk and he says, and by the way, steps away, he said, these 21 books here on the desk we'll never talk about the entire semester, but they'll be on your final exam. So that was my first thing with reading. And then when I went to Nike, it was the same thing with Coach Rav. He didn't put those books on my desk to say, here's some good books to read. He expected me to read them. Like he would ask you questions about what he gave you. One of the best books he gave me while I was there was a book called The First 90 Days. And at that point, I didn't know if I was going to coach again. But Coach Raveling was looking at me still, even though I was working Nike, he was still looking at me as a coach. And he believed in me as a coach. And the first 90 days takes an assumption that you're going to be the boss of something, right? And when I was there, I was in a supervisory position. Kevin knows I basically ran all the Skills Academy events and all that stuff when I was at Nike. But he put it in my mind. I wasn't thinking of myself that way. He was looking at me as a future leader and said, read that book, The First 90 Days, because it's going to organize your thoughts. It's going to have you ready for when the search firm or an AD gives you your first interview and you're in there and they say, you're all expecting, what's your staff look like? Well, what about when they ask you, well, what's the first 90 days of you being on the job? Me giving you the keys to my car, what's that going to look like? So that was a great book. And that's a book I've given to a lot of guys ever since.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great question. Great question. Next question, we'll go with Coach V.
Raph, what's going on, Coach Chill?
Vinny, what's happening, my friend?
What's up, man? So last coach just kind of actually, I think we are thinking alike because I had a similar question about what book you would recommend since that was a common topic between the two of us. So my next one would be, when you go about figuring out your mission statement, how do you dissect your beliefs and put them into action so that your players can see what your program is going to be about?
Great question, Vinny. I think we are a walking billboard of our mission statement. And what I mean by that is be the embodiment of what you want them to be. And what we have is a lot like USA Basketball. We have a set of standards. And we have 4 standards that we hold above everything, and everything ties into them. You know, and our standards are, and I'll share them with you, it's not a secret, we're a billboard for it. It's communication is number 1. The second one is trust/honesty. And if you're communicating, that builds trust and you're able to have open dialogue with each other. The third one is, I got it from my college coach, is see a need, fill a need. Whatever we're doing, if someone needs help with something, if you're on campus, and I don't care if your hands are full and one of the ladies on campus is carrying a big box, put your stuff down, go help her out. And then the fourth one for us is grit, you know, and that grit is, you know, the game honors toughness, and not just the game of basketball, but the game of life. And so those are our standards. And once you have a set of standards, it's easy to put it into a mission statement. And then every day you can point back to, if someone's upholding those standards, you highlight them. If someone's not, you don't attack them as the person. We point back to the standard is, that's our standard of see a need, feel a need. I don't see you doing that right now. How are you feeling this need right now? We need you to be a humble screener right now. You've had a tough time scoring and catching the ball. Well, let's make you a humble screener. Let's do that. That's a need we need filled. So I don't know if that really ties into how to write a mission statement, but I don't think you can have a mission statement without having standards.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Ben.
Next question, Samantha Smith.
Hi again, Coach. Sam Smith with BCU Sport Operations. My question goes back to, again, about your non-negotiables, but specifically when you mentioned non-negotiables with applying to a position, can you explain more of what your non-negotiables are?
Oh yeah, I mean, Coach Sutton and I talk about it. Number one for me is my family. If you're not going to incorporate our families in what I do, I'm not going to upset your apple crate. It's just not the place for me. And I'm saying, everyone likes to say work-life balance. There's no such thing. There's work-life management. If you have a balance, you're probably not doing your job very well. You're probably not doing your job very well as an assistant coach if you're working for someone else. But you are able to manage that time where, I don't know how many guys on this call, you can tell if the people you work with are down for your family. When your family walks into your office during the day, just watch the people's faces around it. Or watch the little comments they make. Oh man, your wife likes you a lot, brings you something to eat, your daughter. So I would say that's number one for me. Number two is as much as you can ascertain, because when someone's trying to hire you, especially when they're going to get you, it's just like dating. They're going to show you all the good stuff. They're not going to show you the warts on their butt. You ain't going to see those early. But do your best to be working for someone who's down for the kids, who's truly down for the kids. The goal is obviously to win games in order to keep your job. But if they're not down for the kids, and I do extensive research, just as much research as they're doing on you, you better do that on them. Because if they're not down for the kids, it's going to be hard for you, if you truly care about the kids, to be able to help them get where they should and deserve to go. And I would say thirdly, a non-negotiable for me is, once we decide on what my role is and the definition of that role, you got to let me do my job. You got to have someone who's going to let you do your job, not get in your way. You're not trying to do their job, but if someone hires you for a job, give you room to operate in that space to do your job to the best of your ability.
Next question, Kyle Getter.
Jill, first off, want to say appreciate you sharing, and also appreciate your friendship, and I've known you a long time, and you're one of the realest people I know, and appreciate that about you. You've had and Jermaine, mentioned Coach Raveling, but you've had a wealth of experience playing at Lafayette, working at Nike, college associate head coach, a head coach at a prep school. Who are some of your mentors that you've come across during your journey, and how have they shaped who you are as a coach and a person?
Well, I'm going to apologize in advance for guys I missed, because I think there's so many people that I've had really good touch points with. One of my biggest mentors / accountability partners is a gentleman named Adrian Branch. A lot of you guys, coaches, you probably know him. He was an All-American basketball player at Maryland. Went to the NBA, unbelievable talent. Fell in some hard times in the league, doing some things that, with substance. And he fell down, but he got back up. He found God, and he's been walking that walk as strong as anybody I know ever since. He's one of my accountability partners. I would say Lorenzo Romar. He's one of those guys where you don't have to talk to him all the time, but when you talk to him, it feels like you've talked to him all the time. He's one of those guys, you watch him, not just in word, but in deed. He is who he says he is. I just remember when I first got to Washington as assistant coach, and this is not a plug for him to get all the players now, right? But I felt, man, I would send my son to him every day of the week. We would end practice, and if one of the players wanted to have a conversation with him, he would always stop and have a conversation with them. As assistant coach, you could go upstairs and watch practice film for 2 hours and come back down. If that kid would still want to talk, Lorenzo was talking with him. He never made anyone feel that what he had to do was bigger than what they had to do. And it was the same. If football had a big-time recruit, I cannot tell you how many times the football coach would call us and say, hey, where'd Lorenzo and the recruit go? We haven't seen a recruit in 2 hours. He's sitting talking, we'd walk him around because Lorenzo went to school at Washington, so he had a great pride in it. But in his humility, he's one. I would say Coach Rav for sure, same thing. Coach Rav, you might not hear from him for a year, and all of a sudden he'll drop you a nugget, just blow your mind. I would say those are probably three of the top in the business. I would say my uncle is a big mentor for me, just teaching me how to do things right. As a father, I didn't have one to show me how to do it. So my uncle, and I would say that would be the top four. But there's so many guys. Now I would say I'm one of the people. I'm fortunate that as a college coach, every coach I worked for either won a national championship as a head coach or as an assistant coach. So all those guys, I'm thankful for having those touch points with them because I know what success looks like even when we weren't successful. I think I know what the ingredient is to be successful.
Thank you.
Next question, Christian Webster.
Coach Chill, appreciate you coming on, man. This has been awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you.
My question that kind of bounces off of what Kyle just asked, can you work for some amazing head coaches, man. Can you kind of go into detail or just a nugget or two from each guy, like what you've learned? I know you just talked about Coach Romar. What about Jay Wright, KO, even Joe Dooley? Like, can you just give us a nugget or two what you've learned from some of those guys?
Yeah, I think, and it kind of goes with me. Just one of the top things is to be relentless about your accountability, the things you hold guys accountable for. The minute, and there's nothing against the kids, but the minute they see that you are not going to be relentless about your non-negotiables, that they're kids. They're going to try to find the easiest way around your non-negotiables. So be relentless about the things that you believe in. Our 4 standards, I'm relentless about them. We talk about them every day. I would say what I witnessed with Lorenzo Romar that separates him from most is he was an unbelievable manager of people. So many players have so many different personalities. And I think a lot of people don't know the one stretch when I was at Washington, we won the Pac-10/Pac-12 3 years in a row. And we had lots of pros on those teams. And his ability to get guys with massive offensive-minded egos to share the ball, and so the team could have success. Isaiah Thomas, he convinced Isaiah Thomas that the way to make it, even though you can score, was to be able to guard. And we got to the point where we're playing Marquette to go to the Sweet 16, and Darius Johnson-Odom was killing us. And we came into a timeout early in the game, and Isaiah said, let me get that bleep bleep. And we were all looking like, what? And he went out there and took on the challenge. So his ability to manage people, to get them to do what you want to do. Jay Wright was like going to basketball camp every day as a coach. His level of detail and desire for the game to be played the right way was second to none. Kids complain about playing off 2 feet. How many of us coaches wish our guys played off 2 feet? There's so much more the world opens up to you when you learn how to play off of 2 feet. So his attention to detail and was like going to basketball camp. Also, his belief in family being part of the thing. He was one of the coaches, and not take away from any of the other coaches, but he was one of the coaches. He would literally get upset with you if we were having an event and you didn't bring your family. Or he would get on the phone and call my wife and ask, why aren't you here? Because he really believed in the family aspect of it. Joe Dooley is a basketball coach. X's and O's. He wants to talk basketball 24/7. And he's one of those guys who really challenges you If you haven't mastered your craft and you don't know offense and defense, it'll show when you work for him, because he's not just testing you. He's going to ask you questions because he wants to know more. And he's been in this business for a long time, and clearly he worked for one of the best in the business in Coach Self. So he would challenge you that way. KO got the reputation of just being a defensive-minded coach. And that's what I was saying earlier. KO had a great understanding of offense. That's why he was such a good defensive coach. He knew if he drew up a play, he always knew where every defender on the court should be. And down the end, people took that for granted with him, but he understood offense because he was a great defensive coach. So, and then the ultimate person taking away nothing from any coach was Fran O'Hanlon, who I played for. His understanding of spacing and make the ball made the plays, not the player. Really good at playing basketball without a lot of dribbles, having an understanding of spacing and cuts and where guys would be on the court, and the ability to be able to recruit guys who can shoot the ball, because being able to shoot covers a multitude of sins. You can have a lot of guys who can't dribble, a lot of guys who can't do certain things on the court, but being able to shoot covers a lot of sins. And the thing that would brought it back to my memories when I was at Villanova, Ryan Arcidiacono was not one of the quickest, most athletic players in the world, but he could get past anyone because he could shoot the ball, and he always played off his shot. Showed the ball, guys always raise up. Now he's able to beat people and create driving kicks. So Fran O'Hanlon, just an offensive, it's Patriot League, but he could coach in any league. His understanding of offense is second to none.
Next question, JT.
Thanks, Kevin. John Thompson at North Carolina Wesleyan. Coach, thanks for being on tonight. This has been great, and none of it coming from you really surprising to me, although we haven't spent a tremendous amount of time together. The time that we have spent has been awesome for me, and I've taken a lot away from you. So my question is I think, a good follow to what we've just been talking about. I'm interested in any of the situations we've been collegiately or at the prep school level, how you balance the science of the game, the spacing, the angles, the particulars of what you want done, and the art of the game, allowing a player with certain abilities to go, or a player on a night where he kind of gets it going. How do you balance the art and the science of the game?
That's a great question, John. And actually, Christian Webster and I have been talking a lot lately, and I've been sharing a lot of what we do with Christian Webster. What I try to do is, in that recruitment process, going back to what Cliff said, I try to get guys who can play more than one position or multiple positions, or if they can't yet, that I'm able to, I see something in them where I can see where I can develop them into being that. And so everything I do, I design to manipulate the defense to be where we want them to be. So if I get a guy going, we don't have to call a play, so to speak, every time for him, but we can get into certain sets or move him to a different place. Like say, I have a 6'10" sophomore who can really, really shoot the ball, right? And so a lot of times we may come down and we're in a tandem and start running two-cutter action. And he's been in a tandem for a little while. But he's come down a couple of times and hit a trail three. So next time I call something, I might say, hey, pop him. We're gonna run two-cutter, start popping in the corner. Now, most 5 men who are guarding him have not had to guard someone from that spot to go to where he's gonna go. And so now the ball's still gonna make the play, but we've moved the player where I know he's gonna get the ball where he can make a play, if that makes sense. So I try to incorporate the concepts of what we're doing and then move guys around to manipulate the defense to get what we want, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Next question, Mike Lopez.
Coach Chill, thanks for being on. My name is Mike Lopez. I'm with the Creative Coaching Podcast, host and founder of that. And so my question for you is kind of reverting back to you talked about being let go, right?
Yeah.
And the whole, like, almost a loss of identity, if you will. Did you ever experience that? And if so, how did you kind of overcome that?
I wouldn't say loss of identity. People know me. I'm pretty strong in belief of who I am. I'm a child of the Father. So
Right.
I never lose that identity. But the first time when I was at Washington, we got let go. When the head coach gets let go, you got fired too. Just by the way, people, your family has to make a change too. But the first time, man, I can't even put it in words that me personally, because I always want to the person I'm serving, that I did the best job possible for them. So when it happened to us, I felt like I started questioning, where did I let Lorenzo down? You know, did I recruit the wrong guys? Did I not do this as good as I could do it? So initially, you start questioning that thing. But quickly, because some people are single, but I have people that I'm responsible for. So quickly, I had to turn the page and say, okay, well, give myself a do better talk right now. Whatever happens next, you're going to do better the next time. I really believe it. Like, I don't wish anyone to ever lose a job, but I'm telling you, when you fail, it's an incredible growth opportunity. There's a reason why it hurts a baby when he comes into the world. You know, he feels that cold for the first time, and she feels that cold for the first time, because without pain, there's no growth. If that shock of the cold doesn't happen, the baby doesn't cry. And if the baby doesn't cry, the fluid doesn't get out of the lungs. So the baby may not live. And that's how I try to approach everything. But you're right. So that's why I try to emphasize to people, man, basketball is what you do. It's not who you are.
Yeah.
But when failure happens, it will bring up some things. And I would say, be honest with yourself. When you find weakness, that's okay. Embrace the weakness, find out and see how you can get better from it. But that's how I approach anything where there's a point where success didn't happen.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next question, Rasheem Davis.
My guy.
Chills, what's going on? What's going on? Thank you for coming on. And it's funny you talk about family and stuff. I'm driving and listening to you, and I'm getting yelled at because I'm not paying attention to the road. But I wanted to ask you, you know, with all your years in the business and all the success that you've had on the high school level and the collegiate level, what made you so accessible to guys like myself, you know, when I was coming up and other guys that I'm sure that you reach out to on a consistent basis?
You know what? Because I really believe that people don't do that enough. And I'm not bigger than the game. My position doesn't make me bigger than if there's a GA at Shelton State Junior College. To me, we're the same. We're coaches. And for me, you're right. I try to make myself accessible. I mean, Rasheem, if you guys don't know him, he's one of the most selfless guys you're going to meet in the business. You know, he was places where we recruit against each other. We're calling, trying to help each other. If one can't get the kid, I'm gonna help you get the kid. So I think when you don't make yourself accessible, you're trying, in a way, you're saying you're bigger than the game. You're bigger than the people who are growing this game. And I find oftentimes I learn so much by having conversations with people that, quote unquote, haven't been in positions I've been in, because sometimes I say something like, man, where'd that come from? And I learn it, or I hear something from that person that I take away, glean away. But my biggest thing is I care about the game and people more than I care about who I, quote unquote, am in the business.
Thank you. I definitely stole from you. You said a quote to me a few years ago. What don't come out in the wash always comes out in the rinse. And I use that at least once a week. So
and if it don't come out in the rinse, it's going to leave a stain.
That's right.
All right, last question for the night. Marty Keithline.
Marty!
Coach, it's been a long time, man.
I was in Africa with Marty.
Yes, sir. 2006.
That's right, my guy. What's happening, Marty?
Oh, hey man, it's been wonderful. Still at Bishop McNamara down Forestville, Maryland.
Yep.
Appreciate your time tonight. So my question, you talked about a lot about being well-rounded and with your teammates. So what activities, like currently with your high school, with your prep team right now, do you do to keep them well-rounded and incorporate that into your team activities? What kind of functions are you doing?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. And because of COVID, we have limitations. But one of the good things that happened this time around being here because of COVID, they have all the athletic teams living in cohorts, like in college. So
Okay.
the basketball guys all live in the same dorm or two dorms. And so we're able to do, they really encourage us to do everything together for the most part, besides when you go to eat. And even those are together for the most part. So what I try to do is host the guys when we can at the house, to watch a movie. You know, we do things for the birthdays. We watch a lot of film because I want these guys to be able to be ready and hit the ground running when they get to college, and that's not foreign to them. They're used to dissecting film and speaking to coaches and speaking up in front of their teammates and maybe getting some answers wrong to grow. Right before I got on, Kevin knows I was on a Zoom call. I have a sports performance coach that I have working with our guys, so that they're working with them on, yes, we're trying to get better as athletes, but how do we grow as people and look at things differently within our sport and outside of our sport. So I try to get as much different information in front of them as possible, and we talk a lot. As you can tell, I have no problem talking. We talk a lot, and everything we do is about the team. You know, I put a quote out the other day I saw from Doc Rivers, and it's become our quote. You know, it may not be good for me, it may not be good for you, but if it's good for the team, it's good for we. And that's how it's. So I'm trying to find everything possible that we spend time together and make it so that it's about the team and it's not about in a group of individuals, that we are literally a team who have some different identities within the group. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, I guess that wasn't the last question. The last question goes to the Associate Athletic Director at Bishop Ireton High School, Coach Darrell Bruce.
My guy.
Unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. How you doing, Chill?
Great. Great,
Man, similar journeys, me, you, Kevin Sutton, man. I just want to ask you if you could just share through all the, ups and downs, just a little perspective of maybe about you and maybe one or two words that just, when you look at everything, not just basketball, but just your life and kind of your life's journey, just a couple words to just that stick with you, that kind of you always can kind of refer back to. For me, it's faith. One of them is faith, and another one is friendship, because I really believe a true friend, reaches for your hand but touches your heart. So can you just kind of something that just sticks with you, man, just through all your journeys?
Yeah, I would say my first one has to do with faith, but I feel I've been truly blessed because not just with the successes, because each failure or something that wasn't as successful as I would like to have been has taught me something about myself. It's reinforced some things that, the guys, example, like the guys last week, I don't know if you've seen the Packy Challenge, right? That the hottest potato chip in the world, the tortilla chip. So I preach toughness all the time to our guys, mental and physical toughness. And so last Friday, I believe it was, our director of admissions bought one and dared me to eat it and see how long it could last. And mentally, I was like, I ate it. It was so hot in that first 5 minutes, but I held on, didn't have a drink or anything for an hour and 20 minutes. And I told our players, I said, if I'm going to be about it, if I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to be about it in front of you guys. So I've been blessed to be in situations where I can practice what I'm preaching to the guys. And then secondly, even though I talk a lot, I have a humbleness about me that because I still look at myself as one missed meal away from starving growing up. And, you know, we've been here financially and we've been down here financially and somewhere in the middle since I've been a coach, you know. And I still look at myself as everything I've been able to do and accomplish. That, man, at the end of the day, you still that little kid that had no father, mother killed at 14, that was one meal away from starving. And so every day I work like that. I work like that. I would never go to bed thinking, I'll never have that thought that I didn't work as hard as I could today or as smart as I could today. So I hope that answers the question.
Jill, real fast, in closing, what is a mantra, quote, Bible passage that you try to live your life by?
Ooh, what I try to live by is much given, much required. Period.
Luke 12:48.
That's right. That's right. Much given, much required. We've been given so much, even, and I'm not talking about finances. We've been given so many opportunities to stand up and be in front of people. Think about this, Mufasa. Think about where we're from. Yeah. We get to stand up in front of rooms of people who don't look like us, who may in the past not want us in the same room. And we get to speak up, and actually those people listen. They want to hear something we have to say. So I would say much given, much required. So as much was given to me, people gave their time, their talents, their finances to help me make it. I'm going to give back as much time and talent as I can without making my family sacrifice in the process. So that's why I live a much given, much required. We all are given so much in this country that we have to find a way to give back to others who may not have a chance to do the things that we do.
Justin, that's Luke 12:48.
12:48.
That Bible passage. Chill. I had a conclusion all written up, but I just flipped the phone over, brother. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on to the Living Trophies Master Zoom class. We've been doing this since April. I reached out to you in April, and I want everybody to know this. I reached out to you in April, and I asked you to come and be a part of this tribe because it represents my vibe. And you said, I'll be there. But right now, every Thursday is devoted to my family. And I respect you then for saying that, and respect you for even more for sticking to that. But when I called on you and asked you to come on and be a part of this series, which is about mentorship, which is about loving the game, but learning the business, you said, I'm there. Okay. You said, I'm there, and you have always been there. And tonight you spoke from your heart. You were authentic, which I knew you would be, and you shared nuggets of truth. Our group got better tonight. This is a fantastic group of people. Been consistent in their diligent in coming to class. They've learned so much. We've had some wonderful people come on here and share so much with us all the time. And one thing that we want to do is continue to be that ladle, filling people's buckets up. And when we fill people's buckets up, we create living trophies. And that's what you're doing every single day at South Kent. I can't thank you enough for your time. I can't thank you enough for your knowledge. I can't thank you enough for your humility and willingness to come on today and share. And in closing, I want to read a quote from, we've talked about him a lot tonight because he's such a big part of our lives, and that's Coach Rapheal. And it says, realize we control how we lead ourselves and others. Nobody can take the commitment of being a positive difference maker and kind to others away from us. As our behavior focuses on solution-based transformation, let us remember the journey in faith and not fear. Now more than ever, we must learn to trust again, believe again, and work together again. And Rapheal, you embody that. And Coach Rav has poured so much into us and so many other people, but you embody that, and I just want to thank you again for coming on. And I want to thank everybody that comes here every Thursday night. You guys have been tremendous. You give me a lot of energy all week long, You can ask my wife. I'm thinking about how to make this show better and make this time better. But I tell you this, every Friday I do walk away uplifted and empowered to put on to bring more people on here to share about this game of basketball, but more importantly, to teach us how to go from being pros to, more importantly, to how to be professionals. So, Chill, you have the last word. So, spit some more knowledge, and then we'll wrap up for tonight.
Thanks so much for the kind words, my brother. I'll say this because we're online. If you want to ever talk basketball or anything to me, get my number from Coach Sutton or anyone who has it. I am always happy. And Rasheen said it. I'm actually humbled when people reach out to me and they want to talk. You might have to have some time on your hands when I talk to you, but I'm just so humbled by this. And it's because of people like this on the phone. And Kevin Sutton's been doing it the same way, people, since the beginning of time. And you are so blessed to have opportunity to take the Living Trophies Masterclass with the king of the jungle himself, Mufasa. Thanks, brother.
All right. Hey, everybody be blessed. Thank you so much for coming. And, we'll see each other next Thursday. All right. We're going to wrap up, and I got a special guest that's going to close this series out. And I can't thank you guys enough. Be humble, be blessed, and more importantly, be a blessing to somebody else and impact their lives. Take care.
Where's the up arrow?